In October, Suchir Balaji, a 26-year-old ex-employee of OpenAI, accused his former employers at the artificial intelligence research company of violating copyright laws. On the 26th of November, just a month later, Balaji was found dead in his flat in San Francisco. Police believe it was suicide. But on Sunday, Suchir Balaji's mother, Purnima, said she suspected foul play in her son's death. A private investigator she had hired seemed to suggest this. The family had even done a second autopsy on their son's body. And the investigator doesn't confirm the cause of death mentioned by the San Francisco police, Purnima said. In fact, she put this post on X. She said that Suchir's apartment was ransacked. There were signs of a struggle in the bathroom, and it looks like someone had hit him in his bathroom based on the blood spots. It's a cold-blooded murder declared by authorities as suicide, she said. These are grave allegations. Why does Balaji's death sound suspicious? And could it snowball into a challenge for the incoming Trump administration? Joining me to discuss this are Surinder Singh Lali, cybersecurity expert Pawan Dugal, and in the studio I have with me my colleague Deepak Padana. Mr. Dugal, at the heart of this suicide or mysterious death of this young Indian techie in the United States is this battle between OpenAI and various media firms in the United States. Now, on the 18th of November, just last month, very interestingly, the New York Times filed a suit in which they named Balaji as someone who they said had unique and relevant documents on the case. What is potentially the kind of evidence that Balaji could have had that could have made their case against OpenAI that much stronger?
Well, it's hard to do conjecturing, primarily because we don't have access to evidence now so far. But clearly, Balaji was a very important player in this entire ecosystem of continuous struggles and challenges. Look, we know that since last year or so, the battle for supremacy on generative AI is taking place at various levels by the various stakeholders. So clearly, Balaji had a couple of weeks prior to his death, had already ventilated his thought process of how he found that there were some unethical practices that were being followed, and that he was obviously privy to some internal information that would have an impact upon how regulators and the courts could look at these players doing generative AI platform practices. Now, what exactly was that evidence is something that is hard for us to right now conjecture. But if you look at the averments made by the mother of Suchir, it's very clear that the mother is saying that the computer was on for 3 days. And that it was all the temp files were deleted. Now, that can only happen if there's a conscious, deliberate attempt made to access electronic records on computers. Also now the second autopsy showing different results, different circumstances, obviously makes it a ripe case where this entire matter needs to be reinvestigated, because it's not just a death of a researcher, it's a death of a researcher who had some crucial internal information which could actually swing the swings one way or the other. And that's the reason why he was even named as a person of special interest. Now, with him being eliminated, that evidence is not likely to be ever be brought onto the horizon. And that being so, it could potentially, shall I say, benefit some vested interest or the other. So I think since these allegations have been made, it's only logical that the administration should need to do a proper investigation and find out that it's no longer just suicide. And if there are elements that could indicate that it's even a murder, then properly investigate the same and bring the guilty to book.
Yes, absolutely. And as you mentioned, Pawan Dugal, the fact that he is a person of special interest, and Surinder Lali, he was a man who knew a lot and perhaps too much, as his parents seem to say. He was going to blow the whistle on OpenAI, and that is possibly the reason he met with this mysterious end. What's your take on this whole case? You've been looking at it very closely over the last couple of months.
Thank you, Sandeep. And to start with, my heart goes out to the parents of a 26-year-old. I mean, not just as an Indian, but as a parent myself, it's my condolences to the family because it's really tough.
Yes.
Sandeep, the United States and this term of deep state has been so relevant and that even Donald Trump is on record saying that when he gets into power on
Yes.
the 20th of January, he's going to do it with the deep state. So I don't know. But let me tell you, I am no forensics guy, but I'm going to tell you why I feel it ought to be looked into, simply to add to what Mr. Dougal said. Now look at the wealth generation that has happened in the last 35 to 40 years in the United States. Microsoft, over $3 trillion.
Yes.
Amazon, $1.9 trillion, and Google, 2.7. Now imagine the the damage a 26-year-old whistleblower can possibly do, who was instrumental in Chat GBD. Not only that, but when it turned from non-profit to profit. So maybe the young fellow, knew more than he ought to. Although, if you go by his mother, he's not technically a whistleblower because he left the company and he wasn't within the company when he did that. But I have, 10 reasons why I think it ought to be looked into, and let me brief
Yes.
it up for you really quick. Number one, the parents reject, and
Yes.
we have every reason to take them seriously. Blood stains in the bathroom
Right.
and in the bedroom. No history of mental illness. They have retrieved. He used to write a
Yeah.
journal, and he used to speak about to his friends and family. The mother spoke to him just a few days ago. His friends caught up when he landed back in LA. No history of that. No CCTV footage was looked into for the other two cameras because there were three entrances to the building.
Right.
And it takes 40 minutes, by the watch, 40 minutes for the investigative agencies to say it is suicide. No condolences, no message from Mr. Sam Altman or his company till date. I mean, you've lost a key employee who was there when ChatGPT really built itself and,
Yes.
came into the market. No signs, and what makes it more like a, Netflix kind of a, thrilling is, I mean, I'm sorry to have used that expression, is that he had testified, he was a witness in the New York Times, and within a week of
Yes.
him appearing to be a witness, the gentleman is, taken care of.
Right.
And, of course, he had more documents, the cache files were, washed off from the computer. And now even Elon Musk has jumped into it, which is probably the
Yes.
only hope. But maybe for his own vested interest, we don't
Yes.
care. Maybe for
He's not a
Elon
big
Musk's
friend of
vested
OpenAI. He's had his differences with the company, Surinder Singh Lali, as you pointed out. But Deepak, there have been a number of such, mysterious incidents in the United States of whistleblowers meeting very strange and untimely ends. Which were the last two cases that we were talking about?
Let's begin with, say, Reddit. One of the founders of Reddit, this guy called Aaron Swartz,
Right.
seemingly kills himself. Then there are the cases of the Boeing whistleblowers.
Yes.
One of them kills himself. Somebody by the name of then Ian Murdoch,
Right.
is another person from Debian. He also kills himself. So there seems to be an epidemic, that's targeting seemingly only the whistleblowers.
Right.
It is worth looking into because the stakes are very high. There are billions of dollars at stake.
Absolute billions, if not trillions of dollars at stake. But that Boeing whistleblower incident, I mean, those two mysterious incidents, that is, of course, caught everybody's fancy. But this one, the case that we are talking about here, Pavan Dugal, how do you see this as becoming a test case for the incoming Trump administration? Balaji's mother has petitioned the incoming government. She's tagged the FBI, and the FBI is, of course, headed by someone called Kash Patel, who's no friend of the previous regime. How do you see this case becoming a Pandora's box for the present administration when there's a regime change on the 20th of Jan in the White House?
The very fact that the timing of this case has happened at this particular juncture of history tells us that the incoming administration will have all the wherewithal within its power and possession to go and reopen the case.
Yes.
Well, if you can actually declare a case as a suicide in 40 minutes,
Yes.
as Mr. Lali was saying, then clearly then there is much more that needs to be seen. Why? Because 40 minutes is not what it takes the law enforcement agencies to look at all aspects of the matter. Even if it is a suicide, you have
Yes.
to examine things from all angles. You cannot be in a tearing hurry. to give a judgment at that point of time. But now that the new administration is going to come, I would expect the new administration to take this as a test case, to investigate and find further whether some lids have been unnecessarily put on vessels, or whether there have been some other vested interests on action. But clearly, it's no longer just the case of a Indian dying. It's a
Right.
case of one of the most significant players who knew
Yes.
too much in this AI ecosystem to
Right.
suddenly disappear and be taken care of. And to just, conveniently put it as suicide is definitely not on. More so when the family is not just talking in thin air. The family has gone ahead and done a second autopsy. And
Right.
the findings of the second autopsy do not match at all with the findings given by the administration. On top of it, we have to also understand the fact that the unusual behavior of the computer being on for 3 consecutive days and the data being deleted itself shows that there is something fishy that appears on the
Yes.
horizon. I think that needs to be duly investigated, and all suspicion needs to be laid at rest.
Right.
If, despite all investigations, they find to the final conclusion that it's a suicide, so be it. But I
Yes.
think with so many red flags appearing in, I think it's much more than what meets the eye, and this definitely merits a detailed reinvestigation of the entire issue by the incoming administration.
Absolutely, much more than meets the eye, and a case that demands a detailed investigation. And this is the murder, or the murder, as the parents are saying, of this very bright young techie in the United States, 26-year-old Balaji. And that is the story that we are looking at. While we are debating H-1B visas, there is this very, very strange case of Suchir Balaji, the techie who died in mysterious circumstances. And that's a story that we're going to be following very closely as we head into 2025. Thank you very much for joining us, gentlemen.